Well, hi everybody. So we've got Christy here, and we've got Mr. Milbillie himself. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How's it been?
Just
So far, so good.
got over having the flu. But
I heard about that. There is nothing worse than having the flu when everybody else is celebrating and everything like that. I had that a couple of years back, and it was really, it knocked me down for about 3 days. I couldn't even get out of bed. And on one of, I think it was New Year's Eve, the wife decided to take the Christmas tree down. And she was busy watching the telly, and she'd taken the Christmas tree down, and she was hoovering, and she was ironing, and she'd lit these candles and only set fire to the lounge. But what she did was she just panicked and started shrieking, and I'm lying next door, dead. So I had to sort of kind of go through and try and save the situation and douse down the ironing board because it was going up in flames. The shirt that was there was going up in flames. And eventually we got it all sorted out, but I thought, I'm not feeling well, darling, and you're trying to kill me off. What's going on here,
Wow.
But anyway, we survived. I mean, it's just a case of getting a bit of insurance. But can anybody explain to me what's the idea with these lighting candles inside your house? Why would you want to light a fire inside your house?
Oh, I have candles all the time.
They make the candles smell good.
Yeah, what Eunice has got now, she's not allowed to light candles. She's got these lights where you put it's got a glass thing to it, and you put like this wax in it, and it makes the smell, but it's because of the heat of the lamp.
Yep, I have some of those too. The wax warmers.
That's right. Yes, but I quite like those incense sticks that you get.
Yes,
the ones that burn down. They're quite good. But right, there you go. Yes. Anyway, we didn't come together to to talk about my sort of skirmish with the fire that my wife managed to start off. There was a very interesting. I've got it right here. A picture that I saw in a Facebook page, and it was of a message from Steve. And I'll just read it out, Charlie. I think you've both seen it, haven't you? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He put, yes, 2020 is good, and I will be out. All the recorded calls. Nobody was on my side. Only Ma and Dad. And what do you say when you are innocent and no one would listen to me? And not even my lawyers didn't even listen to me. But it will all work out with this lawyer, KZ. I still have her investigating on this, and it's good. I thought that was quite interesting because it reminded me of the fact that it was Steve that there was something about Kathleen Zelnick. You remember one of the motions was put on hold was about 3 months, and it was Steve wanted her to investigate something.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. Did we ever find out what it was that she was investigating? Was it to do with Scott and Bobby?
I believe so.
Yeah, I was going to say I think that was the case.
The thing she was looking into, it obviously meant something for them to reopen the case in 2017 and start interviewing people.
Absolutely. And again, we were getting retired officers coming back, aren't we? John Diederin.
Yes.
So I see that you've posted some more videos of phone calls. Is there anything that sort of struck you from any of the sort of recent ones since we last spoke?
Well, there's some phone calls I've been going over again because you hear things in the background, but I've actually been going back and re-listening to the dispatch again
Right.
I plan on going through it, and it's going to take forever, but my goal is to play every single file, all 19,027.
Files.
Yes, audio files.
Gee whiz. Because that's all the dispatch. Is that just Calumet or
Everything.
Manitowoc?
It's all Calumet.
Or
Fire,
Calumet?
for all the fire departments, everything.
Yeah.
Highway patrol, transmissions for the officers, sheriff channels.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I was watching the Making a Murder series too over the past couple of weeks, just a bit here and there. There's been one or two other things on Netflix that I've particularly enjoyed, but I always find when I go back, I find things of very, very, very interesting. And again, it was played again, that clip of Wiegert and Remiker. And is it Wiegert that phones Remiker and says on the Saturday morning, "Hey, the boss wants us to do something. Change your plan. He wants us to go out to the
Avery's and zippers again."
Yep.
And they don't sound too fond about going back by a zipper.
No.
Question is, who's the boss?
Well, Jerry
Or
Pargo. Perhaps.
Or is it somebody from Manitowoc? Because at that time, it was well, as soon as they found the car, it would have been Manitowoc's jurisdiction. So it'd be their case.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the issue's reported missing in Calumet, she's found in Manitowoc. Everything's found in Manitowoc, so it's their jurisdiction. Not until Greg Shetter comes in and mentions to Pagel that there's a conflict of interest here. He's got a $36 million lawsuit. We have some officers that are in that lawsuit. Mm-hmm. So they transfer the investigation, lead investigator to Pagel, assigns Wiegert and Fassbender. Wiegert because he was there from day one.
I'm just wondering though, the decision to hand over the case was at district attorney level with Rawhurt and Griesbach.
Well, they show up on the property first, and then
I know.
comes in. I mean,
yeah,
they're
Griesbach
all there.
Talks about it. Yeah,
and they're right after that. They're right on their way to Fox's house to get the search warrant signed.
Yeah, that's all starting to fall into place. In any of the phone calls, do we ever hear? I'm sure we don't, but have you come across any mention of Steve saying that? Any mention of anybody who could be involved in either framing him or could have been involved in Teresa's disappearance?
There's a few instances where he says that.
He names people a couple times. He tries to work it out.
He says one of the neighbors could have did it. He's been trying to get the yard shut down. I mean, other than that, he doesn't really. I mean, he hints at it, but doesn't really directly say it.
Sure. So, as in neighbors, as in Redant?
No, not Redant.
As in immediate neighbors to him?
Somebody that lives on either White Cedar or Cuss.
Right.
Or it could be on Jambo Creek, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their property borders quite a few other people. I mean, there's that cornfield in front of Avery Road, that whole area. And there's a house. Well, there used to be a house there. It's now part of the Redon Quarry.
Right.
Where the field used to be in between Cuss and Stevens' trailer.
Okie dokie. That's interesting.
I was actually re-listening to the November 7th dispatch for Queso again.
Right.
Some strange, like in the beginning of it, they talk Wiegert, or it's either Wiegert or Brett Bowe. They're talking about they're probably going to wrap up the investigation that day.
Right.
And just the way things transpire, like doesn't make any sense. Like Brett Bowe, he's been out there since Saturday morning yeah. He's planning on being out there for at least 36 hours straight. The dispatcher's like, so when are you coming back? And he's like, tomorrow night. She's like, what? You've already been out there for 18 hours? He's like, I can't leave. There's nobody in charge here. I'm the only other officer here.
Who says that? Bushman.
Brett Bowe.
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm thinking that there's a guy Bowe and there's a PV Toe. Is that right?
PV Toe, yes.
Yeah. These characters, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in John Ferak's book, he talks about how Tom Kasurik as the sheriff, and he was the sheriff. I think he took over as sheriff in 1979.
Yeah.
I think that's when he was 1979. I think till.
And Bushman, he retired in 2005.
Yes, and yet we've got this strange situation where we've got all these in early 2015. We've got all these every single Manitowoc officer going to be signed in, sworn in as officers, and Bushman is one of them on the list.
Yeah, well, Bushman is actually a reserve deputy, just like Todd Herman.
That's what I was thinking. That there's some
brought in for special cases.
Yeah, right. That explains that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's just that when we read the. Oh, hold on a sec. We've got. Better say hello to this guy because he must be.
Hello, Mark.
How are you, Mark? How you doing? Swimming with the sharks again to try and get away from those bloody bushfires. Yeah, there we go. That's more like. G'day, Mark. How you doing? Yes, sorry. Getting back to Tom Kasurik. In the book by John Ferak, he talks about the fact that during Kasurik's reign as being sheriff, if somebody, I'm not going to swear, but if somebody messed up on a job, and in effect they would have normally, in normal circumstances, they would be disciplined for it. There might be some severe, reprimand for it. Tom Kasurik would simply sweep it under the carpet. Reason being, he's then got power over that person to say, I need you to do me a favor in return for me helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it wouldn't. Brett Bowe, he is one of the ones that does give testimony at Steve's trial.
Yeah, multiple of officers do.
So he's working there a 36-hour shift.
Yep, he says it. I'm gonna be on for 36 hours. I can't leave. I'm the only responsible one here.
That is very, very, very odd, isn't it? And you said they were thinking about wrapping up the case on the 7th.
Yeah, Uyghur. It's either Uyghur or Brett Bowe. Actually, I think it's Brett Bowe.
Right.
Because they had called the dispatcher and they asked him, he's supposed to get off at 11. And somebody else calls and asks him if he could stay a couple extra hours. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I'm not feeling very well. I got a cold. I need to leave. Well, then a little while later, Brett Bowe calls and he's like, okay, I'm going to need you to stay till 3.
Yeah.
And there's no questions asked. And then he inquires if Jeremy Hawkins is going to be working the next day. And they're informed, no, he's off. Well, I need you to call him and tell him that he's going to be working from 3 until 3 in the morning. Just driving around.
Mm-hmm.
And he can take care of his evidence whenever he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when Jeremy Hawkins goes missing with the keys. They're looking for the keys. They can't find them. They're panicking in the queso dispatch office, looking for them everywhere. Well, Jeremy Hawkins radios in, has this elaborate story for the dispatcher on how he ended up leaving with the keys in his pocket, when he's specifically told before he leaves, make sure you put the keys back.
Keys for?
The evidence. And he's going to Manitowoc to get more evidence.
One can't help thinking that if they were struggling to find keys, there's a certain detective from Manitowoc.
On that same day, on the 7th, you hear them, Jerry Pagel and Wiegert, requesting them to go to the Hallbox house and get some shoes.
Shoes?
Yes.
Red ones for Ken Kratz.
No.
No? Oh.
For the dogs.
Right? Oh, yes, yeah.
Racker scent.
Yeah. And then for Ken Kratz to try on.
Yeah.
High heels.
With
his skirt. No doubt. That's interesting, because it's one of the things that bless him, Pete Bates is quite critical during MAM1, isn't he? About the fact that they had that salvage yard for a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah.
And it would explain, wouldn't it? Because, why couldn't they have just popped the key in during one of the first searches? Why 7 searches later,
Yeah.
Partly because of obviously Tyson keeping an eye on them.
Well, if you read Queso, on the 7th, they list why they're going in there. And on the 9th, they list why they're going in there. They're looking for a pair of women's gloves and a garage door opener. But on the 8th, there's no mention of why they're in there or what they're looking for. They're just there to collect evidence. Supposedly, allegedly, the porn. And then they find the key. But you read the reports from the officers that Kucharski found the key. But in trial, we hear that Calumet was there to babysit Manitowoc.
Yeah,
but they put out the narrative that Manitowoc is just there to assist them with security and equipment.
Yes. Resources.
And the main people that are named in this lawsuit that are still working for the department are the main people that are finding evidence. Something strange about that?
Sure. It's been a bit of a hot potato recently. People are questioning, because of the fact that we've had bones handed over, wondering about the RAV4. Any thoughts on if the RAV4 is where it should be, or it's somehow vanished as well as the bones?
Don't know. I guess it's probably gone.
Well, apparently Zellner is sure that she's been assured that it's there. But it's just strange that, again, going through Making a Murderer 2, she's saying about the headlight. Well, it's not a headlight, is it?
Turn signal.
It's the pod, but sort of bumper level. And they don't want her to have access to that.
No. Well, if I recall, it's in a brown bag sitting in the back of the RAV with all the other evidence they found in the RAV. So if it's in the RAV, which is sealed evidence, you can't go in the RAV if it's sealed. That's why she was having to work with the state, trying to get access to these items.
Well, they had an agreement, didn't they?
She thought so. And then Judge Sikowitz
just shuts it down. Just meandering for a moment. Have you? I don't suppose you. Luckily, you probably don't have this very much. Do you have much guilt as getting on to the making comments on your channel?
Not really. Just
No?
Charles Darwin a whole bunch, and
Yeah.
I've had a few in the past couple of days.
Yeah.
But nothing. I just ignore it.
Well, Charles Darwin is Ken Kratz.
Oh, I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, he's and he's not subtle about his being Ken Kratz. In fact, he's actually done me one or two favors recently by certain things that he suggested, maybe inadvertently, but he's suggested things, and it's been quite handy. But one of the most recent things, let's see if I can find it here. I asked him about the pressures that a prosecutor is under to secure a conviction. Let me see if I can find it, because it might be. Where was it? I'm trying to think how long ago it was. It was more than a day ago. I've got so much stuff here. I'm getting a couple of guilters that sort of regularly come on. Yeah, here we go. Charles Darwin. Who believed Darcy had it? So my question to him was, what sort of pressure is a special prosecutor under to secure a conviction? And his reply, well, in my opinion, a special prosecutor isn't under any pressure to get a conviction. Which just, well, first of all, it struck me well, yeah, because if you're the special prosecutor and you're going out and you're doing press conferences like that, no wonder we're getting some of these guilters that are coming on and just repeating, churning out the same old stuff.
Yeah, but out of all these jail phone calls we've heard, he never says anything that incriminates himself whatsoever. He's always talking the same things. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense.
Yes.
None of this makes sense. None of it.
I mean, presumably he realizes that, it was essential for Manitrock to shut down his civil suit as best he can.
That whole situation is just the how fast it happened.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's very well, we can say it's very odd, but not if you're in the situation where Manitrock Sheriff's Department is in and the former district attorney Vogel are in. They can't kill Steve because the suit would still carry on posthumously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how bad would it look if this guy who's in the middle of taking them to the cleaners, it doesn't clear it from Manitrock's point of view. I'm of the opinion that as damaging though it would be to give Steve the money,
mm-hmm.
or for him to take some sort of substantial settlement somewhere between 3 and 5 million, maybe. It's just the embarrassment to them.
Well, Christy,
yes,
you see the same thing I see. What took place from the minute they arrested him till they found Brendan.
I do. I see everything Ken Kratz did in the. Let me back up a little bit. I've also read Ken Kratz's book, so
all right.
I feel like I see his narcissism a little bit more than some others may have. I feel I do not want anybody to pay for that book and get that man any money, but I think it is important to read to see his narcissism. The pages of that book are dripping with his jealousy and hatred for Stephen. I think Ken Kratz was at a point in his career where he saw that this case could make him, and he wanted Stephen in prison, and he just fought and did all these things in the background between bringing up Marie Avery, bringing up the letters between him and his wife Lori, going after Jody, he did everything he could to stop Stephen from getting out on that property bond. And going after Brendan was going after Stephen's alibi. When have you seen a murder case where the alibi is the last thing to be ripped apart? Why did they wait 6 months? November, December, January. Why did they wait 4 months to rip apart Stephen's alibi?
Yeah, I think we find out, don't we, that they had tried to get Jody to come up with, for want of a better word, some dirt on Steve, and she wouldn't. And eventually,
I think she did a little bit. I think she said more than she should have. There's a phone call that I made a note that Jody was acting very odd. I think that she was trying to get things out of him for them at one point. I don't completely think Jody was 100% honest the whole time. She absolutely gave them stuff. I think that 2-hour trip home that day to get clothes was a setup. So
right.
I think they got to Jody, just Jody didn't have anything to give them because there wasn't anything to give them.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we certainly in Making a Murderer 1, we see that she seems to be, from the footage we get, pretty much devoted to Steve, doesn't she?
She does.
Yes.
And we also find out that when basically they have to, concede that they can no longer be an item, it's actually Chuck, isn't it, that has to say to Steve, it's over. And Steve says, well, you mean that's no more Jody? And he says, yeah. And he says, oh, there's plenty. There's other fish in the sea.
It all started when Chuck and Jody went to go get the Grand Am.
Yep. The law enforcement purposely, because they'd been listening to these phone calls and they knew how insanely jealous Stephen was of Jody being anywhere near Chuck, they made it a point to let him know that they released his Grand Am and his mother's golf cart to his brother and his girlfriend. And then that even pissed him off at Dolores, because Dolores is supposed to be keeping an eye on this and not allowing it to happen. So that right there caused a whole explosion.
Right. Sorry. So the Grand Am, was that for sale?
No, the police had it. It was because the police confiscated it, and it was when they were finally releasing it back to the family. Yeah. Chuck had to go pick it up with the flatbed because he had to get the golf cart as well. And they were also releasing Jody's purse, and they supposedly wouldn't release Jody's purse to Chuck. Jody had to get her purse herself, and that was her excuse for going with him. But she never told Stephen that she went. Dolores never told Stephen that she went. So when law enforcement's listening to these phone calls, they have now figured out that the family kept something from him. They nonchalantly say, oh, yeah, hey, we released your Grand Am and your mother's golf cart to your brother and your girlfriend. And that starts the last calls that we have, that explosion that we hear happen in the 828 to 839 in May. That's what started it all. Law enforcement telling Stephen that Chuck and Jody picked up the Grand Am and the golf cart together. They let him know that people were lying to him and that Chuck and Jody were still together, spending time together, even though there was nothing going. I don't believe there was ever anything going on. But Stephen's a very insecure person. He's sitting in prison. I can't even imagine what he was feeling at this moment. And they played with this whole family. They played a game.
Yeah.
One by one.
I mean, I'm trying to date exactly when it is that Laura and Moira come along and start filming.
I can tell you. Hang on.
Was it beginning of January?
They contact. It would take me a minute to find it. They contact Dolores. I believe it's like the first contact Dolores mentions is like call 260, somewhere around there. Yes. She also tells him about a woman that called from New York. It's called 260. So her first contact with the family is in December 20th. And then in January, when we have that gap in calls because Stephen goes to a hospital to have a surgery,
Mm-hmm.
we don't actually hear the first meeting with Laura. We do hear one of his first phone calls with Laura. But we don't actually hear what date and how it happened. It did happen in between the 11th and the 22nd when we have no calls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, could filmmakers present something that was biased? They could, but I don't believe they did. And I'm absolutely sure that if there had been anything going on between Jody and Chuck, that would have been of interest to have put into Making a Murderer. As you say, I don't think we get any of that at all, do we?
No, I don't believe there's any reason to think. I think Jody might have been a flirt. Jody might have liked the tension. We know Chuck liked women. You know, I think it all might have I think it was all innocent. I don't think anything ever happened between Chuck and Jody. I don't think it was ever a conspiracy to hook up behind Stephen's back like he was making it seem. But I understand where Stephen was coming from. Look what he'd already experienced. Look what he was going through.
Yes, isn't it strange how we've got the opposite of that in effect on the 31st when Steve is phoning Jody, it would be Jody phoning Steve, but obviously taking the call, and she's really having a go at Steve, isn't he? She's saying, you know, about how the wedding's got to be and how he's got to propose, and you know, I think she used expletives a few times. You better not be messing about and stuff like that. Have I got that right?
Yep.
Yep. And I remember hearing that bit of Steve on the phone to Chuck when he's saying it's over, and you can tell the guy's devastated about it. You know, he says that was the only thing that was keeping me going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not long now till the court have to, the state have to do the response. Have I spoken to you since we found out about Governor Evers not doing anything about Brendan?
I believe so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we just found, and I'm sure I've asked you this. What about, you know? Well, I've asked everybody, you know. So, Christy, what do you think about the fact that Evers took so long? Was it Evers that took so long, or was it, you know, the fact that it was just the parole board just took it on and kept it going? But you know, I just wondered what are your thoughts on that?
When they were first, when the election first happened in 2018, and he was elected in, and everybody was talking about yay, it's a possibility for Stephen and Brendan. A couple of us had looked into what the rules were for pardoning, clemency, stuff like that, and I pretty much knew it was a shot in the dark when Laura Nyrider filed for it, because it didn't appear, you know, that he qualified for it. I understood it was like a compassionate plea, you know, okay, this is, you know, this was a child when this, I understand what she did and I understand why she did it. I just never got my hopes up that it was going to happen. So I really was not shocked when it came back denied. It did piss me off, the timing. I really felt like they could have let that family, maybe it was because I was so emotional listening to the calls and listening to this family getting ripped apart. I really felt like they could have held that till today and let that family have some hope for one more holiday. They completely destroyed. I just think their timing was bad. They could have waited. They waited that long to say no. They could have waited another week to say no. That close to Christmas was just wrong, in my opinion.
Yes, it did seem a bit like that. You know, it's the sort of thing that had we had an announcement that yes, he was going to give, you know, clemency, then, you know, just before Christmas would have been the ideal time to do it. Yeah, I think it's been described by some people, I think myself as well, that it's a bit of a Hail Mary, but they're going to keep banging on the door until Governor Evers wants to listen to Stephen Moore. Is that your take on it, that they're just going to keep going?
I don't know what I think right now. It's kind
Sure.
of hard to even. I try not to have a hope one way or the other and just take it and see how it comes. That way I'm not let down. I don't get, you know what I mean? I'm just waiting to see what happens next. I want to see what their next move is, how this is going to play out. I wish he would have granted it. I wish he would have made a special consideration. And I think it was wrong of him not to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that even Kathleen Zellner tweeted her disappointment at Brendan not being granted clemency, because I think she is genuinely concerned not just to see Steve get out, but to help Brendan by helping Steve get out. And I think she did she not tweet about that she was disappointed?
I believe she did.
Pick that up right? Yeah. I'm sure I remembered seeing that she and I think Jerry Buting as well. Did he not tweet as well that it was what was it, Jerry? Oh, that was it, Jerry Buting. He tweeted about a chocolate shop which had the red high heel shoes specially for crats. That's I remember. Yeah, Jerry. Yeah. Okay, so thoughts then on what the state are going to be doing, because surely they at this very moment in effect they've got just over a month now until they've got to respond to Kathleen Zellner's motion, haven't they?
Yeah, they can always ask for more time too.
I feel like they're going to ask for another continuance. I don't think we're going to see a response from them on the 11th of February.
Okay, and presumably that's something that the appeals court would give them, because it's such a large brief.
With my very limited legal knowledge and just what I know from being in this case and what I've listened to from others, such as Travis and some others, these are appellate court defenders now. They're not Gahn and Fallon. So they do need time to review the case, and this is a large case, and depending on the level of corruption, I guess, depends on what they're doing right now. Are they scrambling looking for their loophole, or are they actually trying to undo a serious miscarriage of justice? But regardless, I don't think it's out of the question for them to ask for more time. I don't think it's abnormal, and I think the courts would grant it. I don't see why they wouldn't, and I think it's a good thing if they ask for more time.
Well, that you've touched on something there that would be absolutely fantastic if the lawyers of the state were actually looking at this sensibly and saying, what the hell's going on here, you know?
Well, that's supposed to be the job of the appeals court, to give an unbiased review of a case. That's supposed to be, and the appellate prosecutors are supposed to defend their conviction unless they're seeing something that was, egregiously wrong, severely wrong here. I just hope somebody does something right. It's for the corruption to go as high as some people insinuate it does. It's just hard to wrap your head around that. It has to stop somewhere, and I really hope we're at the spot where it stops. Yeah,
I mean, I always feel as if when Making a Murderer first came out, they had the opportunity then, I feel, to address the issue and say, we need to look at this. As I said, there are some states in America that have got these conviction integrity units.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be very good things that, look at these convictions, particularly when you've got something with, so many things wrong with this case. I'm going to say 80 more things, 80 plus another 80 more things. There's just so much wrong about it that you would hope that they would actually get to the stage where they think, we can keep fighting this and digging ourselves deeper and deeper into a hole, or we could actually look at it sensibly and see what's what's happened here. Was there a feeling when Peg Lautenschlager passed away that could open the doors to things to change, or was that always seen as there could be some things going to the grave with her? Okay. Sorry.
I don't think I was involved in this case when she passed away. I think she may have already passed away, so I don't think I was around for any of that.
Right. I mean, we're talking, I'm going to say possibly end of 2016, early 2017.
Well,
I must have just missed it.
She definitely had her hands in this, because it's not a coincidence that Deb Strauss just calls up out the blue with information on Stephen Avery, and the day that they arrest Stephen Avery, why is Jerry Pagel requesting Peg Lautenschlager's number? Awfully strange.
Yeah.
Deb Strauss was one of the lead investigators that went over the 85 case.
Yeah.
When they sent all that they found to Peg, she deemed that there was no wrongdoing and that the victim is responsible for IDing the wrong person. So there's no blame on the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. And that's complete bullshit, because then Stephen, how these people start to help him, took out his lawsuit. It was rolling. It was all coming bad for them.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk even had his attorney email the attorneys that were in charge of this deposition, trying to get out of it a week before Teresa Halbach goes missing.
Right.
Just so conveniently, Stephen Avery is arrested on this gun charge that should have been filed correctly when he was released from prison. But the fact that when they tried him, they tried both charges together, the Sandamore, all this stuff together. So the gun charge and the rape case were all tried at the same time. And when they released him from prison, they cleared all the charges he had. Kraft found out that he was not registered as a felon for that because they did not file the paperwork.
Yes, that's again. I remember hearing something about this, reading something about it. You're absolutely spot on there. I mean, talking about Peg Lautenschlager and her whitewashing of the case, it's interesting how when I was looking at Ken Kratz's sexting scandal, how when it first blew up in his face, and the way he was trying to sort of distance himself from any kind of wrongdoing, and basically putting it out that why should they be looking at him? He's got this fantastic record. He's got this unquestionable support for the DOJ and the Attorney General. I don't doubt for one moment that Peg was sort of quite happy to whitewash it all. I mean, one of her. I actually did a bit of research into what the duties of the Attorney General are, and one of them is to try and save money for the state, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's one of their sort of, I don't know what you would call it. It's part of the job description or part of the, what she has to do. Let's
budget.
Budget, yes, that's right. Try and control the budget and make sure it.
The city of Manitowoc, they could have afforded that paid the lawsuit. It's the fact that these officers and officials were being held personally liable for what took place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okie dokie. One final question, because I'm going to have to go now with Eunice is telling me my tea's ready. So
Where's my tea?
I know. It's steak pie and potatoes. That's a rather smashing tie that you've got there. That looks very smart.
Doesn't it look good on him? I think it looks so good. I love it. That's the perfect tie for him.
Yeah,
he chose it.
He showed it to me the other night when he got it. He was all excited about it. He's like, I got my tie from Paul Capaldi, and he sent me a picture, and I love it. It looks good on him.
Good. Well, believe it or not, one of the first person I ever sent a tie to was actually Robert Herman, but I've never seen any footage of him wearing his tie, so I don't know whether he liked it or not. But yeah, it's just a little thing that I like to do. I've sent one or two other people a tie, obviously Eric Jose. So yeah, we'll.
The Herman brothers are quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been working my way into the Ricky Hostetler case a little bit more.
Yes.
Speaking of that, we have a special on Friday night with Debbie, Ricky's mother, where she talks about his case. Excellent. It'll be on at 9 p.m. Eastern time Friday evening on the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Looking forward for that for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine you'll be tweeting that.
I'm sure it has been. Zoe's in charge of that department.
Zoe, yeah. Okay, well, we'll make sure that we get that retweeted out there. So that's Friday night.
I'll send you the link to it.
Oh, that would be brilliant. If you send me the link, then I can tweet that as well, can't I?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, you may.
So yes, definitely. I mean, the Ricky Hostetler case again is one of the items that John Farrak covered quite extensively, didn't he? He did quite a lot of reports in the.
She mentions him in the interview. Yeah. She talks about him and what he did.
He points out a lot of interesting things.
He does.
Lots. And they're not like just Stephen A. case. They're not coincidences. These things are happening for a reason.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember reading about Sheriff Herman was something that was put in the newspaper about Sheriff Herman reminiscing about his time in the force, and one of them was where he talks about the fact that I remember once going around all these parking lots trying to find a bit of bumper. As if that was a good thing. He got told off for that. So there's no way you should have been doing that. You should not have picked up. That was a piece of evidence.
He talks about how he was just driving around with pieces of evidence in his car, all willy-nilly, not a care in the world.
Mm-hmm. For me, and I'm sure for you as well, the worst bit of that was the way that was either Lenk or Colburn lied.
Oh yeah, straight lied to her face.
Yeah,
that's just.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Right. As I say, I better wind things up, and so 9 o'clock Central Time.
No, 8 p.m. Central Time.
8 p.m. Central Time. That's 9 Eastern Time. 9 Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Okie dokie. That's great. Once again, many thanks for joining us. Sorry, one other question. Have you got any more? You say you're going to go through a load of files to do with other voice messages and stuff Are there plans to put them out?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I guess you could be busy with this for a while.
I'm going to be.
I think he talked me into joining him on that venture today. I need more calls to listen to.
Well, listen, guys, keep up the good work because you're doing great.
Well, this is my plan. We're going to have the calls. You're going to know who's in it. You're going to know their badge number. You're going to know their name. And if I can, you're going to see their face too.
All right. Excellent.
That's a lot of work, but okay, we can do it.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on again. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Well, I look forward to having you back again in the
Absolutely.
not too distant future. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We'll meet you again soon. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
And bye everybody for joining us. Thank you very much. See you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.